Hi guys, so I'm going to start covering some more news stories that come up from time to time regarding transgender stuff. I know it's not video game related, but this is something I'm very passionate about because the world, or America in general, um, they seem to have little to no concept of what transgender is, how it applies to any of these problems that come up, and honestly, if I see one more shit comment, I'm just gonna go crazy. There's a lot of piss poor comments that are written on these news articles by people who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. So what happened is in the Houston area, a daycare center which had a 6-year-old transgender boy. Um, this transgender boy just recently came out. So the parents, who are a gay couple, um, are embracing their now son and allowing him to pursue his dream. Now, again, as a transgender person myself, I can tell you for a fact that when I was 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to be a girl. I didn't understand really the bigger picture about it. I didn't understand what it entailed. I didn't understand that this is something I was going to battle for the rest of my life. It was just a feeling I had when it was like from the outside looking in. When I saw my fellow classmates that were female, I was envious of them. And I wanted nothing more than to be raised as a girl. And again, this is something that psychologists have proven that this is not a mental disorder. This is not something that implies that we're crazy. This is just a neurological condition, which the problem is a lot of people out there refuse to look at the science. The science has proven that transgender women have the same brain composition as a natural born cis female. Now, cis meaning same, so that would be any female who was born and assigned female at birth and feels like they're female. And what they had found was there is a portion of the brain that there is a distinct difference between male and female. And what they had found was transgender women, like myself, actually have the same exact composition as other female. And the same thing for transgender men or transgender boys. They have the same brain composition as any other boy. That being said, that is why a transgender person is transgender. It's because their brain developed differently than the rest of their body. It is proven science. This is not something that one researcher has found. This is something that's been discovered for the past few decades. There have been studies where they actually slice up the brain and they focus on specific areas, and they've done this with hundreds of cases. So it's not like they just said, okay, one transgender brain, one male brain, and one female brain, right? They didn't do something like that. This was a very concise and very in-depth study that was done, and this is something that's been going on for decades. So what happened was this little boy, being 6 years old, and just before I continue the story, if someone wants to be known as a boy, you have to respect them. It doesn't matter what age they are. You have to address them as how they want to be addressed. It's all about respect. And the problem is people will take it upon themselves to say, no, you're not a boy, therefore I'm never going to call you a boy. Kind of happened with me and my fucked up family, where very few people actually address me as Catherine. Very few people address me as she, her, and hers pronouns. So even though I've gone through the entire legal process, and even though I look like a fucking female, my parents, just to call them out on this, still call me my old name. They still refer to me as a guy. And this mentality can be applied to any other aspect. There are people that, will address me as female, right? The second they find out that I was transgender, all of a sudden they start slipping he's. They start slipping things like that, which proves the point that if you don't know they're transgender, chances are you won't even be able to tell they're transgender. I've never had anyone when I'm in the women's room, I've never had anyone call me out and say, "Hey, wait a second, you're not a real girl," or something like that. It never happens. And there are people who have conversations with me in the bathroom. So they hear my voice, they see the way my body language is, and they still see me as female. So, getting to the point, I keep getting sidetracked here. But in Houston, on November 3rd, there's a place called Children's Lighthouse Learning Center. And it's located on Clay Road. So now, a woman named Madeline Kursky, whatever, she was fired, as well as one other person, for refusing to address this transgender boy as a boy. So the parents had spoken with the people in charge of this facility, saying, "Hey, look, my child's transgender, we just would appreciate it if everyone can be on board." There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't kill anybody to just say, "Hey, your name is now Bob instead of Sarah. So let's just call you Bob. It makes you happy, so where's the fucking harm?" Right? So instead, they refuse, they get fired, which I strongly believe was the right course of action. That if you're going to be a selfish, self-centered prick, and you're not going to, accept the wishes of someone else and make this about you, then you don't deserve to work there. Because the point of it is that the safety of a child is utmost importance, right? Well, part of that safety is allowing them to be who they are. And you don't have to agree with it, you don't have to like it, but that's just the way it is. So she was fired. Now she's suing the school center, and what's funny, and this is what is just mind-boggling, because she's black, right, and because she was in her 40s or late 50s or whatever, and because she's religious, which I didn't see that coming, right, she is considered a protected class. Well, newsflash, I'm a protected class, you dipshit. And that's something that I find mind-boggling. They don't even mention that in this news article, which I'll have a link to it below. They don't even mention the fact that transgender people are considered a protected class. And if you purposely ignore the wishes of how they want to be addressed, it is considered sexual abuse. And that's the funny thing that people don't understand, that's what the facts are. And look, yeah, see, I have a transgender flag. I'm whatever. But the point is that she is basically, what she's trying to do is turn it around and play victim, when the true victim is this 6-year-old boy who is being abused by a over 40-year-old woman, right? She gets fired, and now she's going to cry foul and say that, "Oh, I'm a victim, and my religious convictions were not..." Shut the fuck up with religious convictions. There's nothing in the fucking Bible that says transgender people are a sin. There's not a single verse in there. There are transgender pastors. There are gay pastors. And what's funny is, I'm sick and tired, right, of people using religion as their excuse not to be okay with you being trans. The same thing with Houston, this Proposition 1 bullshit, right? Where what they did was, there was an anti-discrimination bill that was originally passed. And there was this big Supreme Court ruling, whatever, where Houston was forced to either get rid of it or put it up for vote. So that was what Proposition 1 was. And it was for a multitude of things. It wasn't just for transgender bathroom access or anything like that. It was for anti-discrimination for race, for age, for all sorts of things. But what it did was it added sexual orientation and gender identity to the list of covered or protected classes. So what happened is you have these idiots, most of them are religious, and I'm going to flat out say it because it is true. They decided to start this huge multi-million-dollar campaign to convince people that if they passed this bill, which was already in effect, but if they allowed it to stay, a pedophile old man or whatever could just walk into a women's room and it would be quote-unquote okay. And I'll put a link actually to the video below too. It was a disgusting ad campaign which was severely misleading. It wasn't talking about facts at all. It was just someone spinning it and starting propaganda to tell people that this is a bad idea. I think personally those kind of advertisements should be illegal because your entire intention isn't to tell the truth. Your entire intention is to mislead people and scare people into getting rid of a policy that was honestly good for everybody. So back to this story. So now she's suing and her dumbass lawyers are going to actually pursue this, which if they actually had a brain, they would understand that she really has no leg to stand on. She was insubordinate, and she is just playing the victim card. She's playing the I'm a black person, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's all about bullshit, you know? Just because she didn't agree with a transgender child being addressed the way they want to be addressed, she made it about her, and so now there's this big lawsuit that the school has to deal with. And I hope that the school wins because the school was not wrong. The school did the right thing. The school was being inclusive for transgender people, which is the way it's supposed to be. But no, instead, someone who's like, oh, I'm a protected class. Okay, so you want it to be, you're being hypocritical. So you want to be seen as a protected class, but you're denying someone else of their protected class status. And that's something that also drives me up a fucking wall, is that there is a portion of African Americans who do not support transgender people, but they will use this defense. They'll say, I didn't choose my skin color, blah, 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 but you chose to become a girl. That argument and that statement is so retarded, it's ridiculous. The thing is, I didn't choose to be transgender. I didn't choose to feel the way I felt my whole life. I didn't choose to torture myself my entire childhood wishing I could be a girl. And I didn't choose to have people abandon me when I came out. But, of course, because she didn't choose her skin color? Are you fucking serious? I didn't choose to have a female brain. I didn't choose that. I just have it. You know? But the problem is people seeing is believing, right? So they assume that, well, your skin color is black, so therefore you didn't choose it. It's a physical thing, you didn't choose it. The same way I didn't choose my eye color, right? But what they don't understand is sometimes there are things you can't see. And you can't see the inside of my brain with the naked eye. You need to dissect it. You need to yank it out. You need to do studies. You need to do tests. And the problem is these people who aren't really that educated anyway, because it's mostly southern states that fight this tooth and nail, they just refuse to look at the science. Instead, they just say, God, 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 religious, religious, religious bullshit. You know, the thing is that religion should never be used as an excuse to discriminate against other people, because they did the same fucking thing with African Americans. You know, what people forget in history is that people did, like the whole Ku Klux Klan was based off religion. Like, they felt that they were superior through religion. And it's just asinine that we live in the world where people are just, you know, praising this mythical creature called God, and that people are using it as a defense to discriminate against other people. like the whole Kim Davis bullshit. She should have been fired from day one. Instead, it was this whole drawn out thing, and politicians and people saying, oh, my religion is being. Whatever. What the fuck does your religion have to do with me? What the fuck does your religion have to do with other people? Just because you don't like something, you're gonna hide behind a fucking Bible and tell people that you're the true victim? No, you're not. And people do this all the fucking time. Kim Davis is just one of the more popular or public cases where she just, instead of doing her job, which, what the fuck is it? How is it harming you? You're not gay, right? So you should be fine. So why the fuck, when you go and you sign a marriage license, right, and or deny a marriage license, you say it's under God, but the thing is, no one's telling you you have to be gay. No one's telling you you have to join in to their fun and fuck their brains out. No one's telling you you have to do that. Your job is to follow the law and issue a marriage license upon request, as long as they meet the criteria which has been set by law. So as long as they're following the law, it shouldn't matter to you. But instead, you make it about you. That I'm going to deliberately disobey law just for the fuck's sake, and then when I get called out on my bullshit, I'm going to praise God and say, God did this, and blah, 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 blah. No, it doesn't work that way, and that's something that is slowly happening in this country, is that people are starting to wake up. People are starting to realize that Christianity, which is really the biggest culprit, has been this bully for so many decades, and that they're finally getting put in their place, and they don't like it. They really don't. Personally, I think all churches should have their tax exemptions revoked. Why the fuck should a organization that preaches hatred towards LGBT people get exemptions from taxes? Why? What good are they doing for the community when they actively hate and seek out ways to disrupt any laws that protect LGBT people? It's a war that they created. And yet we are applauding it and rewarding it with tax exemptions. Really. Why don't I support the fucking Salvation Army? Because it has been known that they have, in the past, denied any sort of coverage or access for gays and lesbians. They did this. And, people just constantly go, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw them a buck or something. Me, whenever they say, hey, can you spare a dollar for it? I tell them, fuck no. I refuse to support any organization that actively discriminates against LGBT people. And I'm glad that this school did what they did. I'm glad that this woman no longer works there, because she doesn't deserve that job if she's going to be a self-centered prick. Take care, guys. Look out for future videos.